We want to store clicks. So we'll just look at this, or we can increment the number of time people into your shortcode. So maybe you want to add some type of graph or some analytics you want to track later. But we're going to set this to 0. And let's also store the actual shard URL. So that should be enough that we need for data. Now we just need to store this data inside of DynamoDB. And we're going to wrap that in a try catch block. So let's try. And we want to get our table. And there's a function on DynamoDB table called put item. And that's where we put item equals data, which is our JSON. So if this works, let's actually do a return. And we just do a 201 for create. Dumps, and let's pass in the short code. And so when someone actually creates a shortcode, we're just going to send back the response as the new URL that we generate dynamically. And let's close this off. And let's just add a header. And let's actually put in our exception for try catch. And we'll just do a 403 if this fails. Message and error save and data. So this should be the general flow that we have. This needs a little more improvement, but this should get us from generating the unique URL, saving it to your DynamoDB table, and also catching any exceptions. So let's go ahead and save that. And I'm just gonna do a SAM build. And in this case, we're gonna deploy to AWS console. So I'm just gonna clear this, and just to make sure I have my profile set up. So let me just export. And you can test this as with your call identity. And this should show you which profile you're currently logged in with. Check your first video of this course, see how we set up our profile. I'll clear this, and let's do a SAM deploy. And our app, let's call our stack shard URL API. US East 1 is my default region, so I won't save that. And confirm changes before deploy. Let's do yes, so we can see what will get deployed to AWS console. And these we can actually keep the default. You may see this right. We're using API gateway. We're saying the endpoints aren't using any type of authorization, and that's if you have some type of login or cognitive setup. So we're gonna say yes. and save configuration. So what this does is, and even if we do by default, just click, it will be yes by default. It will create a SAML file or TOML file for us on the left. And so the next time we run this deployment, we shouldn't have to enter the stack name and all the properties that we chose earlier. So let's look at our chain set. So because we selected, we need to approve before we deploy. This will give us the chain set that will be deployed. So these are all the things that we run. We'll get a role, a log group, permissions, stage, API, the DynamoDB table, and that looks pretty good. So we're just gonna hit yes. And this may take a minute or two. So after a few minutes, everything got deployed successfully. So let's jump over to our AWS console. And let me just open up a new tab for CloudFormation. We should see our project. Now I have quite a few other projects and I've deployed this a few times before. So let's open up our shard URL API. And if we go to resources, right, we should see a list of all the resources that were displayed earlier. So here is our Lambda function, or a log group, the IAM role. We'll take a look at the actual permission to access, actually permission for post, the actual API gateway, the deployment, and the DynamoDB table. So if we open up a role, let's take a look at this. And we should see the policy, right? These are default execution role that just allows the Lambda function to write it to the log group. But what was the only thing we defined in the template was the policy to access DynamoDB. And that's just, as you add additional services, you will need to make sure the policy gives the Lambda function permission to write input data, delete item, scan query for the actual resource. So everything looks pretty good. If we also go to our resources, right, let's look back for API gateway. And this is our API gateway. We can open that up in a new tab as well. And we should see the URL. There is a /create URL. There is a post request, a method request, and this is pretty much shows the flow of the request, the Lambda integration to our Lambda function. If we look here, we should see our Lambda function. Again, this is using a REST API, which is very robust and could be something just for our entire course, right? So later on, we'll change this to use the HTTP API, which is a lot more simple to get started with. So if we go to stages, we should see the prod stage and we can grab the URL. So now we should be able to test this. So let's grab this URL and I'm just going to go to Postman. I'm going to create a new tab and you can use just about any other HTTP client. So let's add this, and this is create URL. And for the body, we should have a raw JSON. Now, if we look back at our code, right, there are a few things that we specified that should be in our requests. The ID is unique, and this will be dynamically added, but we wanted the original URL. The shard code should be dynamic as well, created at click shard code. So the only thing we need to send is the original URL. All these are computed programmatically. So let's go ahead, and this should be quite similar to what we had before. So let's just create the JSON shard code, and this can be any string. I'm just going to grab a URL of an item, and this is indeed a long URL. So let's send this, and we should see our shard URL get generated. So let's send this if it works. So fingers crossed. So we're having an internal error, and this is a good time to do some debugging. So if we go to our Lambda function, let's just open up our Lambda function. And visually it will see all the resources that are connected. But if we go over to monitor, as we send requests, you should see these numbers a lot more dynamic. But let's go into the actual log group. So let's go to view log group. And we should see the first request again. So here it is. So this should show us all the stuff we are printing and including the error message as well. So let's open that up. And we see type error and Viron is not callable. So maybe we have a typo. So let's go back to our source code. And here you can actually do some changes from here. Just for demo purposes, let's see. And we have OS. Okay, so we're missing the get. So this should be .get, and this is not best practice, but just for the sake of this demo, I'm just gonna update it in here, and we can actually do a deploy. Let's just make sure our code is updated as well. So just for demo purposes, usually this again is somewhat of an ID, but you miss IntelliSense and any other flexible options you want. So since this is deployed, if we go back to API, let's try again. And we're still getting that internal error. So let's take another look. Okay, so we're getting a key error. And it's here. So let's take a look. This time we'll just edit since this is more than one tiny change. So let's take a look at our code again. So we have a ref string, HTTP, or event, headers, host. So let's take a look at our event and see the properties here. So it's host in caps. So that may be the problem. All right, there is the header. Yep, so this is capital host instead of lowercase. So let's just update our code. And let's do a sound build again. And we'll do a deploy. And this time, since we already have our Tamil file saved, it should be much more simple. Except for the authorization, we need to always input that for now. And let's just go ahead and deploy. Let's go ahead and test this again. And there we go. So we are grabbing the URL that API Gateway gives us, and this is the shard code. Now, in the future, when we add our own custom domain, right, we can control the length of this, and we'll truly have a shard URL. But for now, we're using the automatically generated API Gateway URL, and that's good. So let's check our Dynamo database, and this may wrap up our third video in this series. So let's go ahead and look back at our shard API. And if we go to table, Let's look for our table resource right there. And if we go to explore table items, right here we have some data, and we should go to JSON view, and let's actually turn off the Dynamo JSON so we can see this a lot cleaner. So this was our unique ID. We are saving some date through our Python code clicks. We're setting that to 0. Later on, once we have this working, every time someone clicks on this URL, we'll increment this by 1. And this is the original URL. So here we have in this URL, and we're making it into our own tiny URL. We'll also take a look at this later on. Here, this is all caps. Of course, it should be a combination of lowercase and uppercase. So our code isn't working exactly as we want to, but we'll fix that later on. That wraps up this video. See you in the next one.